What's up guys, this is Cher talking, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm gonna make a full review for the SaGa Soul Red Mage banner that brings Red Mage, a minion that shares styles with Scorn and Strife, and Frielei Flammar, characters that comes from romancing SaGa Minstrel songs. Since the remaster is coming up, the game is celebrating and also kicking off the 2-point anniversary eve. These characters are a little niche. Red Mage is a very powerful character, while Frielei and Flammar may not be so interesting. But let's talk about them all, and I'll start with Red Mage. The Red Mage is a staff user that carries fire and shadow elements. He needs a dedicated staff. We're gonna get one in the event, and he has very good status distribution. He gets 100% agility, that's very nice for a non-martial artist. 116% intelligence, that is top of the game. You can check here that it has the highest one shared by Robin Joe and Nigomon. It's even higher than Death and Misty, for example. And his will is 91, pretty good. Interesting enough, his intelligence and will are the ones that have arrows and bonuses and not the agility. But it makes sense since he doesn't want to get inflicted with ailments before he can inflict debuffs or ailments on the boss himself. He does not suffer too much from a low endurance, he can even take some hits. Well, when you compare him to the past styles that he can inherit, Scorn and Strife, it's unfair because, look, they were Platinum styles, the styles were never so good, even comparing to Strife. It's a natural evolution. Now, moving for passives, the first one is called Absorption Magic. When landing an attack, he will heal very small effect. That should be around 150. He has an additional effect, 50% chance to chase with the attack called Drain Energy Plus. That is a B-power single target shadow attack that will also recover his HP by around 800. So, a 50% chance to chase with any of his attacks. And it's important to say that even a normal attack may trigger this. Now, the second one is called Exhaustion 1 Will, and when landing an attack, he has a guarantee to debuff 5% of the target's will, and also recovers 1 BP. This is actually something that will start appearing from time to time in some styles, and helps if the style has a way to debuff the specific status with an active skill too, and in the case of Red Mage, he can. And, well, if Absorption Magic triggers Drain Energy Plus, you will be able to get 5 EP on that turn, and will be able to also debuff Will by 10%, so yeah, 50% chance to debuff 5%, 50% chance to debuff 10%. Very useful when you want to inflict status augments on turn 1 or turn 2 against enemies with very high resistance. Like in Pandemonium Tower, we had some bosses like the 7 heroes that could be inflicted with ailments, but they had very high resistance. Now, we have High Protect Tension, the last passive, that increases damage by 20% and reduces damage that he receives by 30. So, very nice because it brings offensive defense, but Red Mage is not exactly a damage dealer. By debuffing Will, he increases his own damage, but he himself is there just to inflict ailments and keep the constant damage to reach out a moment where he can kill the boss, but he's not exactly a nuker. This kit will be important when we discuss inheritance. Moving on for skills, we have Wrecking Plus, a 3BP shadow spell that deals B damage with 22 mod. For 3BP, this is already amazing just for the damage, but it also carries a medium chance to stun. This is an amplifier over a node skill many other shadow mages will be able to use. It's not the best stun spell in the game, but because of his high intelligence, it is good enough. The highest one we have is from Surfing, and also from Undine with Bubble Pop. This carries a high chance to inflict stun. And in the latest version, she buffs intelligence on every turn, and it allows her to reach very high status to just keep the stun going. And the other one is Undine, and she does that by inheritance of this style. Kinda old, but she carries that in the Global X style that buffs intelligence too, and she can stun lock easily. They may be the best ones because of self buffs, but on turn 1 Red Mage can even do the same because of such a high intelligence, and since he debuffs will from targets, he may just be on same levels. The second skill is Whisper of Dread, a single target attack with 5 VP, B power and 27 mod, that's actually very close to 8, that starts on 28, and it carries a medium chance to inflict confusion. Well, this one is one of the best skills to inflict confusion in the game. It loses to Aggro Break from Sparrow, because this one has a higher power, S power and 39, and he also self-buffs, so he's going to land this even better than Red Mage. And the other character should be Evelyn. Again, she has Horror, but this one does not do damage. So it has high chance to inflict, but you need to manually train this on Seeker's Path event, for example, to reach level 99. With medium chance, he's actually pretty good already. Now, the last skill is called Dark Wash Plus. This one we saw before because of Global X Barbara. It was the first character in JP to have access to this, and it has a buff break. Can remove all buffs from a boss, that is status buffs. STR, Endurance, Dexterity, Agility, Intelligence, Will, Love, and Charisma. So some bosses can stack status when they attack, and sometimes they attack 3 times in the same turn, eventually reaching very high status that you cannot protect yourself. You need to remove their buffs. And like I said, it was released alongside Global X Barbara, a support style, as you can see here, Dark Wash Plus. But it's also available in 2 other characters, that being Rock Bouquet. Any version of Rock Bouquet can get from an S style that comes from a tower permanent event in the game. So you can amplify, and if you have the latest versions, you're going to have access to the same type of spell. Another character with access to this spell is the S style of Rouge that drops from main story and also from some specific events by amplifying too. So the best version of Rouge to use is the one that comes from Leon's banner. This one has a buff when landing an attack that buffs his intelligence and will, and he has also a skill that debuffs the enemy's will. So he has some competition with Red Mage by having access to similar effects. But not just that, we also got another skill called Rising Nova Plus. It has the same effects but 9 BP cost instead of 10. So it has a better use for 3 turns rotation in characters with 3 BP per turn at least. But that gave access to Acelus as well. She has it by inheritance of her S style from Halloween, Rising Nova Plus. There's also Rick. We just got a free version of Rick. You get it from the first welfare style. So there are plenty of styles in Global that can replicate the Dark Wash effect. It depends on if you have access to some of those. If you don't, it's actually nice to have this on Red Mage, because some fights can be easily win without using buff break. And when comparing all the other styles, Red Mage is actually the best Dark Wash Plus user, because he gets access to at least 4 VP per turn. Rouge also gets, but he has a chance to get 5 VP because of Absorbing Magic and Exhaustion 1. So sometimes he can even use it every 2 turns, allowing you to survive better against bosses that keep self-buffing. But to be honest, his best skill for bossing is not even here. It comes from Strife, Fire Hat, a fire spell, but you will need to use a dual element step to reach high damage. It will come from his event. This spell has D power only, but carries a chance to debuff the target's will. Because he already has very high intelligence, he will be debuffing, and because of Absorption Magic and Exhaustion 1, you have a very good thing here. You will be debuffing 20% at all times when you use Fire Hat and it lands, or 25 when you get Rain Energy Plus. So this makes Red Mage one of the best will debuffers for long fights. There is at least one competition, and this one comes from Ruby. Ruby also has access to Fire Hat by her S style, but she carries a passive called Misfortune Telling that carries 50% chance to debuff the enemy's will by 15%. So, well, 15% at all times, and then 30% when it triggers. When you want to inflict status elements on a very hard challenge like Pandemonium Tower, you can restart till you get it to land on turn 1 and on turn 2. So she will get 30% on turn 1, 30% on turn 2, reaching 60% in 2 turns, but that is with RNG manipulation. And the Red Mage will get as much as 50% if you try to manipulate RNG. Well, they are competitors. I believe that sometimes one may seem better than the other, but the difference is pretty small. If you have both, you can bring Dan alongside two buffers like Matriarch and iToken, and the fifth character can be the Ailment Inflictor, and you will be able to land ailments on enemies with 500 or even 600 resistance in some cases. But is it overkill? Usually yes. So this is actually his main gameplay to help overcome some situations in the game. As for other inheritance, he gets access to Bird of Flame Plus. This is an S-power AoE attack, actually pretty strong, but he cannot use this on turn 1. But you can manipulate for, well, maybe finalize it. It will work well. And from Scorn, he can get access to poison effects. He has Blight, a cheap AoE attack with double elements and low chance to poison. But if you want to poison only one enemy, you should be using Toxic Might, because this one carries high chance to poison, the highest chance possible, and he can't just change between trying to stun and poison or trying to confuse and poison. Any will work. Well, Red Mage has access to plenty of different effects. He does not require any premium inheritance, but does require Platinum. At least Strife is needed because of Fire Hat. Scorn adds poison, but you can wait till you get it. If you already have Strife, that means that you'll be able to get access to his full kit. But even if you don't, eventually you'll be able to get, since he comes from Platinum. He works by design. Now, the only problem with Red Mage is that everything that he does can be done by other characters. That means that he is easier to skip, and considering the value of the banner overall, that's what many people will do. Still, he deserves a high SS grade in our tier list. Now the next character is Flammar. She's a happier user with access to fire spells, so you will need to equip her with a dedicated happier with fire element, much like Barthélemy. She has a focus on intelligence and will, bonus and arrows as well, as you see, but she has very low agility. And remember that spells need both agility and intelligence for accuracy. That means that she may even miss some attacks. We had problems with characters even like Shira missing out sometimes, and Flammar will have the same type of problem, but it will slowly be fixed since she also buffs her own intelligence. Well, for passives we have Revitalize 3. On the end of a turn you have 25% chance to recover HP by around 800 and 3 points of BP. It's good since she's a support unit, and recover BP will also allow her to use some very pricey skills, but it's still not as reliable as it could have been. Then the second one is called Energize, Intelligence and Will, so on the start of a turn she gets 15% Intelligence and 15% Will. Yeah, buffing Will help her not get inflicted with ailments, reduces magical attacks, but buffing Intelligence will help her fix her accuracy problems and deal a little more damage, but she's not exactly a nuker. While the third passive is called Strengthened Iron Wall 2, damage reduces by 10%, and on start of the fight she gets 12 VP. As you see, she has no damage passives. She has to rely on Energize, buffing her intelligence to increase damage. If you forge a very good weapon, it will help, but she's not a nuker, and you have to understand that. Well, starting with 12 VP allows her to use Bird of Flame Plus on the start. We saw this skill with Red Mage, she can get it by inheritance. It is a 12 VP attack with S-Power and 39 mod. This is exactly the same mod that Rick has access to with Flame Frenzy. But he's a farmer, this attack is fast and carries Slash as well. So it's a strong attack for farming situations, can be used on Final Island for example, but this is the only AoE attack that she has access to. To be able to use Bird of Flame again, it will rely on having to trigger Revitalize, or else she's going to use normal attacks plenty of times till she gets access to this again. It's not perfect, it's not a good cycle. But she's more about support. The second skill is called Revive. For 5 VP and also 1 LP, she casts a Revive spell in one of your characters, And when this character dies, it will instantly revive on the end of the turn. So it can still get LP damage by being dead. And when it revives, it loses all status buffs that you had applied, even guard up effects and the likes. So it looks interesting because revive is something that we want depending on the situations. If a boss will do a nuke and you know that you're going to die, you could cast this, but then you are bringing a character with not much utility to the fight, and even then, if you lose all your buffs, how are you going to survive on the next turn? You have to reapply, and you know that sometimes you need 4 turns of stacking buffs to survive. And what's worse, you lose will buffs if you have applied to, well, negate ailments and things like that. So it's good on theory, but in practice, it's not. Would be much better to apply damage block, a type of shield that negates 1 hit or things like that, because they are more reliable. Then the first skill is called Bird of Light. It's a single target attack that's actually good. It has C power, it recovers around 150 HP, and also buffs her own intelligence. But the problem here is the cycling of this character. She has a good single target attack that has low cost, but then if you want to go for overdrive, you want a stronger attack. You could be saving BP by using Bird of Light, but then when it comes to the moment of nuking a boss, what do you use? Bird of Flame? This is an AoE attack with only S power. We needed something like a triple S attack or something to just burst damage. And if you want to use Bird of Flame, what are you going to use when you don't have BP? Normal attacks, because if you keep using Bird of Light, you have to rely on so many triggers of Revitalize to be able to use Bird of Flame again, that it really does not make sense. If there's many enemies on the field, you want AoE. If there's just one enemy, you want single target. So she needed a NAS style to inherit a strong single target or a weak AoE in order to make her build work. Sadly, the way it is, it's not so useful, and Flammar, it's very easy to skip. She will only receive an S grade in our tier list. And the last character is Frielei, a great sword user with access to wind spells that do cold damage. Yeah, she's pretty unique. We'll have to discuss this. She has only 108% STR, that's not that good. We can even go here on styles and filter by STR, and you see that there are much higher status here in the game, 116. With characters that have been released, and she's not even on the first page. I don't know why they did this, but they chose to buff her endurance and will, although she's actually a farmer. Maybe they want us to use her own bossing, but more into that later. Because of being a hybrid unit, she does lose some agility points, being on 87, but this doesn't matter much because she's a fast attacker now in global. Her will and endurance are average levels, and love and charisma are pretty bad, and she does not need. So intelligence is high, but is it really something that you needed? There's only one attack that uses this, and I think it's a waste. They could have used a bigger increase in STR instead of just having such a high intelligence. Well, for passives we have Frozen Guardian. This one increases her damage by 60%. It's amazing, but has a drawback. It will give her a frozen stance on the start of a battle that lasts for 1 turn. This is essentially petrify, and when you are petrified, you lose access to your holy stones that are equipped on your gears to reduce damage. You lose access to any type of guard up and any type of formation bonus. That means that when you get hit, it's gonna hurt. It's only for 1 turn, so in JP, people use her as a farmer, and this makes sense because it actually works like delay. She can attack on turn 1, so use someone else on turn 1, and then use Frielei on turn 2 and turn 3, and she was made for that. Second passive is called Strengthening Attack 2. Damage increases by 15%, and she starts the fight with 12 BP. And then we have Mastery 1, increasing her STR and intelligence by 5%, and also 1 BP. The good thing about this is that she gets access to 20 BP in 3 turns rotation, allowing her to use some very interesting rotations that we'll talk about later. Well, all in all, 75% increase with 5% STR buffs so that you get a little extra damage even then. Well, for our skills we have Ice Cutter, a 4 BP AoE attack that uses slash and cold damage with D power and 12 mod. It's not that strong, but she can use it anytime since she has access to 4 BP, but she will hardly if ever use this based on how she actually performs. Then the second skill is called Blood Curdle. It's actually a spell, so you need a Wind Greatsword, and I don't think it's worth, but anyway, its 8 power has 30 mod only, and has a medium chance to paralyze, and a low chance to inflict instant kill. We have plenty of paralyzers, maybe not for Greatswords. If you want to kill the real Queen, you don't need that much intelligence, and you can use other type of attacks. We have Blunt Strike. This attack here can be used by plenty of different characters, and it also has medium chance to inflict paralyze, especially with the Katarina. The latest Katarina also buffs intelligence, and she's pretty good to paralyze the real Queen on Remembrance Battle. I don't think that's a reason to pull for Frielei anyway. So the instant kill chance is okay-ish, but we just got the Welfare Rick that can instant kill with better damage, so I don't think it's useful at all. So crafting a Greatsword with Wind Element for Frielei, it's more like a waste than anything. And her selling point is exactly Dark Downswing. For 10 VP and 2 LP, you get access to a fast, full AoE attack with S power and 39 mod. Well, this is strong by itself, but also grants two different effects. Heat Up, increasing damage by 10% for the whole fight, and Defense Up, decreasing damage by 10% for the whole fight. The Defense Up doesn't make much sense because she's not a boss specialist, but the Heat Up makes, since on the second usage of Dark Downswing you get access to 85% increase. But since this is only slash, it's a little more limited than it could have been. It should have been also cold. But let's compare this to someone like Rick. Rick has a 13 BP attack that is fast, slash, and heat. He can only use this once in a 3-turn rotation because it's too costly. So they made her lose LP in order to use Dark Downswing on turn 2 and again on turn 3. This is gonna be very nice for Final Island if you're having difficulty there, or for story farming. It's also worth to say that Dark Downswing has the same damage power as Will Swing Plus, something that you can find in many Greatsword users. Gustav, for example, get it from the S style from Tower, so pretty easy to get. Frielei is kinda of just allowing you to get that much damage 2 times in a row. I think I want to talk about Kriemhild now. Kriemhild is a character from SaGa Soul Banner as well, and she has a very powerful fast attack on turn 1, with the same power even. And she also gets a lot of damage increase on turn 1, the same 75%. But there's a direct difference between those two. Kriemhild can attack on turn 1, and she will skip turn 2, but she also has a single target cycle if she wants. That is actually pretty powerful. While Frielei will only attack on turn 2 and turn 3. I remember getting so many characters that are good on turn 2 and they are super limited. If you want to use Frielei on an event with 2 waves, well, she's only gonna attack on the second one. That restricts her potential a lot. Getting her will only help you on Final Island in story mode most of the time. And that's why I don't think Frielei offers too much in the game. If only she had access to cold as well, but she doesn't. There is another character that has a similar setup, and that one is Silver. Silver has access to this attack called Storm Roar that will be amplified into S power as well, and she can use this if she kills 2 times by her Halloween style. And this attack has actually different elements than the normal. We have Cold and Lightning. Those are much higher than just Slash. That can be found in many characters. And sadly won't offer too much to most players. She still receives a low double S grade in our tier list. And now back to the banner image, and is this banner worth summoning for? In my opinion, no. The reason being that Red Mage is actually very good, but he's also a niche character that is used in challenges, and what he does can be found in different characters, although not on the same level. It is easy to find alternatives, while Frielei and Flammar offer different mechanics that are not worthwhile, and these characters don't have futures, so that limits their investment. And we are just starting 2.5 anniversary celebrations. We're going to get better banners, and Minstrel Song Remaster is coming up with a banner that has 4 styles at least, so it's better to save now. If you want Red Mage because you don't have a premium Will Debuffer, it's on you, but again, proceed with caution only if you have a lot of gens to burn. Those that are free to play or new players, I suggest to skip. But that's my opinion. What is yours? Please say here on the comment section. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't. If you want to support the channel, there are links in the description of the video. I hope to see you soon in the next one. Bye.